Um, United won on the weekend. Should we start? Do you want to start talking about them again?
Nah.
Nah. Cool. Welcome to episode number 9 of Do You Know the Score? I'm Jordan.
And I'm Gavin.
We are back. Well, I'm back. You were here last.
Yeah.
You did some stuff last week.
Some of us don't take time off.
No. Well, did I miss anything?
A few things. A couple of little things happened.
Did something go on? Yeah, it was an interesting weekend that weekend. It's a shame that I was off for it.
Yeah.
Like you said, Manchester City suffered their first defeat in a impressive performance from Wolverhampton Wanderers, I've got to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then something happened over in Liverpool game with Spurs. It was mental. And then you did a bit of a chat about it, and I watched the chat, and I wholeheartedly agreed with most of what you've said, and also agree with most of what Liverpool fans and Liverpool workers and stuff say online. Some of it I think might be a little bit over the top.
Sure.
A little bit, but I understand that the wound is also still was pretty sore during the time.
Well, I mean, we have had a couple of days, and although it is very, very sore still, it's better than it was. There's been time to reflect, so I'm happy to talk about it a bit further. I've got some further thoughts. I know you got some thoughts. Maybe some of mine have changed over the days. I don't know.
Okay.
Let's find out.
Well, we'll go with mine. Like I said, I watched the game, but I was incredibly shocked, obviously, that the Jota goal wasn't given. That's a given. I mean, and I've heard the audio, like I think most people have, and the audio is damning.
Diaz goal, sorry. The Diaz goal.
Diaz goal, sorry. Did Jota get sent off?
But yeah, that was a whole other issue that we will talk about, but yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
Diaz goal.
I'm mixing up my Portugueses. But yeah, so obviously Diaz's goal should have stood. There's no doubt about that. Like I said, the audio damning. I mean, it genuinely sounded like a bunch of people who could not be bothered to even to push the button to make the lines happen, to even look at it properly. It's disgraceful. The fact that they twigged like a little bit after and didn't go, hey, just blow the whistle, start again, go to the center circle instead of where you are. I agree wholeheartedly that any of these things could have easily happened. The fact that no one's like, I was surprised no one in the VAR room just went, guys, we've got this wrong. Start again. Instead of going, are you sure? It's like, like when your missus tries to catch you out and she sort of says, are you sure that what you're saying is true? You know what I mean?
I know what you're talking about.
I know you don't do it, but like, I wasn't accusing you. But I'm like, but what I mean is like, there's that thing of like, they just he's asked some sorts of like obscure like leading question to try and get them to the conclusion that's in his head of we've got this wrong, and you're not going, lads, we've got this wrong. It's a goal. Let the ref know before it's too late. And then for everyone's response to when they do all agree, oh, actually, we did get this wrong. For everyone to go, nothing can be done now.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. It's not going to kill the world of football if you stop play 30, 40 seconds, a minute and a half in and go. Am I right in thinking that the restart happened in your half, or was it in Spurs' half?
In Spurs by the box, right? Yeah.
But Spurs probably, I can't remember exactly because it's been a couple of weeks, but I'm going to assume that Spurs weren't on some sort of flowing attack.
No.
You know what I mean? They were just
they took the kickoff. It went through the middle of the park to our left, their right hand side, and then the ball went back towards Spurs half, and then the ball went out of play for a Liverpool throw-in.
So the out of play Liverpool throw-in would have probably been an ideal time to go, by the way, lads, don't take the throw-in, save your arms. We're going to the middle of the pitch. It's a goal. We made it. Yeah. And take the flack that you're going to get from managers like Postecoglou's probably going to be mad about it.
Yeah.
Players in Spurs are probably going to be mad about it. But that flack of but getting the decision right, I think,
Mm.
was infinitely more important. And
Here's a weird angle coming from a Liverpool fan who's bitter about this, but
yeah,
I can kind of understand why they didn't want to restart the game. There was not enough time, and I think Postecoglou talked about this, to explain everything as it needed to have been explained to the managers. We're talking only
I,
seconds. It's not a quick thing. So if the ball in general is a dead ball, VAR check, and then okay, we start again, and then you spot that you made a mistake with the call, with what you did. Actually, no, they did catch the studs, or they did that, whatever. Then by if we'd have stopped our game, then in future you can stop in that situation. The frustration here is that our situation was so unique as far as we're aware. Worryingly, this might not be the only time this has happened, but it was so unique that it would be understandable in that situation to stop rather than those others. But there wasn't time to explain that to everyone involved for that to be able to be the case. It would snowball, and we can't have a situation where there's the referee calls something on the field, whatever it is. The VAR officials question it for 30 seconds. Then they start back up, and then someone else, the assistant VAR or the VAR operative or Simon or whoever the other person was, says something, and now we have to go back, because then what if someone else saw something and calls it in from the studio or from wherever, and then we're never ending. So we've got to have a cutoff point. It's just frustrating that this particular situation would have lended itself to that, but just general football doesn't.
But I don't entirely agree with you on that, because I think that the purpose of VAR was supposed to be like in a support system for referees to get more decisions correct. And to be fair, statistically, it has. But their mistakes that are being made are so damning that, and it's not just this one, but what I really appreciate about this one is that Liverpool are being the first, probably the first team to properly stand up, demand audio, like really bring awareness and a spotlight on this, because the PGMOL referees in general, they get, in my opinion, they get protected too much. You're not allowed to criticize refereeing. I think that's garbage, and I think that, to stay on topic before I go into that part of what I'm thinking about this, is that I don't think any football fan genuinely would long-term, like in the initial moment, probably the team that's being penalized will probably be annoyed about it. But in the long term, stopping a game when there's no progress being made, there's nothing happening. It's not like they're stopping, like I don't know, free kick, a direct free kick, or a corner, or a penalty, or even like a guy's through on goal. And I'm not saying, oh, like, a Spurs player's through on goal, blow the whistle, start again, we've made a mistake. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, though, that when you've got the opportunity to make a decision and to change things, I don't think starting the game up again is a valid enough decision, excuse, in my opinion, to do what they did. The PGMOL, like I was saying, is they're way too protected. I'm sure it's happened to Klopp. I think it has happened to Klopp. I'm pretty sure it's happened to Guardiola. It's happened to Mourinho, I can remember. I'm sure there are managers galore who've had fines, who have had suspensions, all this kind of stuff for having the mere goal to just say, I don't think that the referee did a good enough job in our game. What is that? Like, what I don't understand how, if players are able and managers are able to just take as much flack as possible from every side of the equation, depending on whether you're biased or what your non-bias is, or whether you're a media person, journalist, whatever it is, fan that just attacks decision-making, ability, playing, personal lives, all this sort of stuff, and they're told, yeah, it comes with the territory. It's part of the game. It's part of being in the position you're in. Referees, on the other hand, can make massive mistakes, cost teams games, cost teams leagues, cost teams relegations, all this kind of stuff. That's in their hands. As much as teams playing and being winning games, losing games, drawing games. As much as their performances are a part of it, so too are the referees' decisions. And the fact that you can't even merely say anything without it being a furrow or a suspension or anything like that is disgusting. And it really grinds my gears when I'm seeing people sort of like take your tribalism out of this for a minute, right? The reason that Liverpool are doing what they're doing is genuinely for the betterment of the game generally. I don't agree with some of the hyperbole of Liverpool in this. I really, like there was all that talk when it happened of we need to replay the game. I do disagree, wholeheartedly disagree, only because I understand where you guys are coming from in that, all right? And I probably feel the same way had it been Man City. I would agree and probably would follow suit. But being someone who's not really affected by it, other than you dropped points and we didn't, it helps us in the table and in the race against you. But taking all that out of it, my problem with the idea of replaying the game stems from if Liverpool get the game replayed, let's say, that opens up, in my opinion, a Pandora's box where every club will try their luck and attempt to get themselves replays when things go against them. It will also create a situation of favoritism. So, for example, if you get this and say, I don't know, West Ham decide we're going to challenge and they don't get their replay, well, then there's there's a favoritism for Liverpool, or the argument will be made that there's favoritism and blah, blah, blah. And then you start creating more problems. The other thing as well is that it creates a situation where more than one team will be requesting replays. Because let's take Everton and Man City, for example, a season or two ago, right? So Rodri handles the ball clearly in the penalty box.
Sure.
And that should have been a penalty, potentially a sending off. I'm not 100% sure if, the handball in the box and the way that it was done warrants it. But VAR looked at it, ref looked at it, went, nothing to see here. It was a complete accident. We'll move on, right? That decision potentially relegates Everton.
And also stopped us from winning the league.
Which was where I was going to go for next. And it also means that you guys probably didn't get the points total from it. Yeah. And I'm not saying that Everton would have definitely won the game or taken points off City. We know this. We've had this sort of chat before where you can argue that it changes the tone of the game or it changes that moment, but I don't think it guarantees anything, right? But you want the right decision made.
You do.
But in that particular instance, right? If we're now becoming we get into the world of we're doing replays for things when we make massive egregious errors that we can prove were incredibly incorrect. That's Everton and that's Liverpool going to the Premier League and saying, we want replays. We want this. And I think setting that kind of precedent is potentially dangerous because it'll end up being everyone's putting application forms in for that. I see clubs doing that.
I see what you're saying. However, I'm not advocating at the moment for a replay. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just counterpoint. What you mentioned there, great point about the handball. At that point, it was VAR checked. They went, is it, isn't it? They decided it wasn't, play on. If VAR had said, check complete, handball, penalty, and they hadn't given the penalty and they'd gone on, that's a different story. And I would definitely say that's worthy of possibly looking at a replay there for an egregious miscommunication, not that the call didn't go against you. Because if you look at our game, I don't think that the Curtis Jones red card was a red card. Neither did the referee on the field. Neither does loads of other people, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Jota's first yellow card was a yellow card. Those things were judged by either the on-field ref or by the VAR to be the way that they were called. No problem with that. Play on. That I don't think those are worthy moments to say we should replay the game, as in the handball you talk about with City.
Right.
I can see why I'm not championing for it, I've got to say, but I can see why people are saying about it this time because it's different. We don't know if this has happened before. This is the first time it's been brought to light, like you said, because Liverpool asked for the audio. We don't get that stuff. So yeah, hopefully this is the start of something new. I've got something I want to talk about with Howard Webb and Michael Owen in a bit as well, which kind of addresses this about what we're doing going forward. But as of right now, yeah, I'm not for a replay. I understand why. In the baseball history books, we have asterisks next to certain players where it was shown afterwards that they took performance-enhancing drugs. Their records weren't taken out. Those they stand, but there's a note, there's a footnote to those. I feel that even if the official results books won't show it, I think for future seasons, especially the next 5 years, this particular Spurs Liverpool game will have a mental footnote for everyone that, all right, that was wrong. Something happened there, and that result stands. Happy to have it stand, but there's a footnote. I think that's how we go forward with this.
I wasn't saying that that's something you said, by the way, with the replay. I know you didn't mention that at all in your video. It was more, I think Klopp alluded to it, and I think
I think he actually said it. I think he actually said it.
Okay, so that Klopp said it. Madhead. But like I said, I just don't think that even as egregious and as awful a decision as it was, if we start like I say, if you set the precedent of replaying games, even things that are different, even things that aren't as unique or anything like that, I just see people chancing it, and it's just I know it's a Pandora's box that I don't think needs opening.
I know, but to jump on the wording you just used then, it wasn't the decision that was wrong. The decision was fine. It was the correct decision. It was the communication that was wrong. There was a breakdown in communication. We're using VAR, and we didn't at that moment, which I think is unfair. That for that moment, that game didn't have VAR. There's, I think, is it the League Cup where they don't use VAR until the semi-finals?
Yeah,
because it's not fair. That weekend, every other team in the Premier League got VAR. Spurs, Liverpool, for those couple of minutes, did not. So it's a semantics, it's a wording thing. Again, I'm not trying to say that we should replay it. I'm just saying that let's be careful with the wording, that we don't then label other events that are nowhere near as problematic as this one as the same, because it dilutes what's happening. It's important that we get this sorted with VAR going forward.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say, and maybe I'm not articulating it well enough, is that I think that I don't want people to do what you're saying. I don't want people to trivialize it, because once, like, by the very nature of you getting a theoretical replay, that then they start chancing it and going, well, this is a wrong decision, so therefore it's the same.
Yeah.
And that's wrong as well. But I just think that, like, by the very nature of potentially replaying something, no, I'm not saying that anyone is. I'm just talking about that bit of hyperbole that was coming out at the time. But if they did in the multiverse where this has happened and there has been a replay, I just see the admin after it being, and people arguing about that. Oh, well, that's not, like what we're saying here. It's not the same. But that won't matter because of tribalism. That won't matter because of who it is, what it is, etc.
Yep.
So, we'll put a little bit of a pin in this, and then we'll come back, because obviously we're going to talk about Michael Owen and Mr. Webb.
Yeah.
But let's go into the weekend.
Yeah.
Where we had the football, and it was eventful.
Sure.
Eventful. Can I talk about Manchester City and Arsenal before
Please
we go into anything else? I've got to say that I genuinely watched a tactical masterclass by both coaches.
Mm-hmm.
The a bit of commentary that Gary Neville said, not long before Martinelli bloody scored as well, bloody jinx, was this is going to take a moment of brilliance. It needed a moment for a
Mm-hmm.
goal to happen because the way that both teams set up was beautiful. If you
Sure.
could have, like, if Guardiola and Arteta didn't know each other this well, I'd assume they were married. Like they knew everything inside out. The way that Arsenal compacted everything. Like one of the things I've said about this Man City tactical thing is if you like people said if you quieten Haaland, it's done.
Mm.
They quietened Haaland. They cut off all the passing lanes for Haaland, but
Mm-hmm.
this is the important thing that no other team really did because Wolves kamikazed us. Right, I think Wolves came in and went right. We're either going to beat you
Yeah.
or you're going to smash us 5-0, and
Yeah.
that's how it's going to be. But this is how we're going to play.
Mm-hmm.
And that worked for them. Arsenal was a much more considered approach. It was brilliant. And what they not only cut out the passing lanes for Haaland, they cut out Haaland out of the game entirely as well. They also stopped, had in place where when Haaland goes on his runs and he's dummying people and he's making space for others, there was no space for anyone else to go. And it was really clever. Like, and the team moved back and forth as like one beautiful unit. And when they went forward, they were dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But when they went forward, Man City was shutting out all of theirs. They were closing out the wings so that so that the wingers couldn't really play. They were they shut down Nketiah for most of the game. It was incredible. Like tactically, it was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that losing that game, I didn't come out of it. I was upset with Wolves because I felt that we should beat Wolves, and I thought that them doing what they did and playing like they did gave us an opportunity to be better.
Mm-hmm.
Proper stat pad tactics, like, you know what I mean? Like, in theory, we should be pumping 5 or 6 past them, and because of how open they played and how aggressive they played and how attacking minded they were, but it seemed to just knock us out. Whereas Arsenal, I thought they were brilliant, like genuinely brilliant. And, got a bit of luck with the goal, but, it happens, innit? And I've got to say, like, I don't buy this nonsense that Rodri and De Bruyne and Grealish not being in there affected us because we had players in there creating bits. It wasn't like we were entirely starved for creation. It was just our creation was just cut out. Do you get what I mean? There wasn't anyone not making things. People were trying to make things happen. Rico Lewis was trying to make things happen all game. John Stones was the same when he replaced Rico Lewis. Kovacic, who I'll get onto in a sec, he was making things happen. But once you got into the final third, it wasn't a case of us not running out of ideas. It was Arsenal just shutting everything down and just being brilliant, being really really disciplined and very smart. In terms of Kovacic, I mean, the fact that he was still on the pitch is beyond me. Take it. But I mean, if you like I said, we'll go back a little bit to your Liverpool Tottenham game. If Curtis Jones is getting sent off for that, Kovacic should have at least gotten 2 yellows for doing 2 tackles identical to each other. The inconsistency in that, like if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd feel pretty aggrieved that we had to go up against 11 men all game because you shouldn't have. If I'm calling a spade, but I thought that Arsenal looked the real deal. Like, I don't know if this is just because they beat Man City doesn't make you suddenly the real deal. What I mean is just like the confidence in the performance and the abilities in the performance looked like title-winning team, not the team last year that had these shaky, awkward kind of moments in it. This looks like a team that, like, when we beat Liverpool by a point or two to win the league, and then the year after you guys just smashed the league.
Yeah.
It's got an aura of that. Like, we nearly got there. We got a taste for it.
Yeah.
So now we're prepared for what comes. And yeah, I give Arsenal props. I thought that they were magnificent. I felt that we were just shut out of the game. And yeah, that's down to Arteta. And when we did try different tactics, you know, they adapted as well. It was pretty clever. Like when we brought Doku on to bring some pace down the wing and to try something different, they shut that down as well. They knew they kind of knew how to just take that in. And yeah, I've got no complaints other than it sucks that we lost two.
Yeah.
On the bounce. I feel sorry for whoever we play after the international break, because unfortunately they're probably getting smashed in, because I can't imagine that the next 2 weeks I know players are out on international duty, but when they come back, it's not going to be a pretty sight on the old training pitch in Etihad.
No, but I mean, you guys didn't play badly either. Like you said, Arsenal were just, they were there. You can get results and play badly. We've both watched games with our teams where we've done that. We've played badly, and yet we've still won. Real Madrid, I keep going back to this, in the Champions League against us, playing badly but still winning the Champions League. It also happened against Brentford this last weekend, where they were the better team, but then the other team, which we shall not mention, ended up somehow beating them, which was completely against the run of play. That was an undeserved win, whereas I think, like you say, Arsenal did play the better football and deserved the points. I also think that they should feel very unhappy about the lack of red card. Whether that will have changed the game, I don't know. They might have won by more, maybe, but I don't know. The direction of the game might not have changed. You know what it's like when you go down to 10 men or 9 men like we did. You play differently, so you can never tell what the game's going to be like. But if that call is going to go a certain way on the field, and then VAR are going to look at it, and then it still doesn't happen, that's the annoyance. That's what I was talking about with the inconsistency before. We're going to throw it up to VAR. At the beginning of the season, I remember us talking about the fact that the refs have already stated that they're going to try and not overturn on-field decisions because they're concerned about whatever it is they're concerned about. It's got to be a clear and obvious error for it to be changed, which is nonsense to me. It's meant to be an aid for the on-field refs. And that they should have aided that one. Howard Webb actually told Michael Owen in this interview I'm going to talk about in a bit that Kovacic should have been sent off. He should have been sent off, and that VAR got it wrong. What good is that now? What good is that? What Arsenal must be furious about that. And the decisions at this point have gone very much in favor of Man City. I mean, apart from you guys losing the 2 games, the last 2 weekends have been extremely favorable towards you in terms of bad for other teams. If you'd have taken advantage of those issues and won these 2 games, you'd be miles ahead in the league.
Absolutely.
So,
and for all you mental conspiracy theory people out there, I completely agree with you that the team that have 115 charges that have been investigated left, right, and center and are probably like the ginger stepchild of world football definitely have the referees and the FA in their pockets. You muppets. Sorry, I was reading stuff online before and I shouldn't.
I know. I know exactly
I read that and I was just like, what?
It's easy. It's easy. They're making it easy for these people with these stupid decisions. They're making it look like they're favoring Man City.
But they don't. I've got tons in the vault here of moments where I thought we've been screwed here. So, but I digress. Speaking of down to 10 men, Spurs, Luton Town, man. They Spurs looked incredible all game, even when they went down for stupid sending off. Like, why dive? Why do that? Especially if you're on a yellow. Why bother?
Yeah.
But Spurs barely changed how they played. They just swamped Luton. Like, I thought Luton maybe would get a bit of a pep in their step because they were defending really well and they were closing Spurs out for most of the game, but they didn't even change. They just invited pressure and Spurs took full advantage. And we're now in a situation where we've got Spurs and Arsenal are the only two teams that haven't lost a game.
Yeah, that's right.
That's impressive, man.
That is impressive. Let's go back over their games real quick from the start of the season. Brentford, draw. The team that shall not be mentioned, they beat them 2-0 at home.
They did.
They beat Bournemouth 2-0. Burnley 5-2. Sheffield United 2-1. And Sheffield had a man sent off. You can probably see where I'm going with this, right?
I can see where you're going with this, but you've got to beat what's in front of you.
Oh, absolutely. No. I don't want to put the cart before the horse with this team. Arsenal Spurs, that was a 2-2 draw. That was, that's a fairly decent one. The Spurs Liverpool game, all right, I think there should be a footnote on that one. That one can't be used as there you go. That's what either team is like, because that just is not a fair representation of either team from that day. And then Luton. I think they've done fantastic. Like you say, you've got to beat the teams in front of you. A more fair analysis of Spurs should be made in a couple more weeks. I think that's the same for every team. You can't look at the table now and go, well, there you go, it's decided. But I am extremely impressed with Spurs so far this season.
I think my point is that, like, last year, those teams probably would have turned Spurs over.
Yeah.
Whereas this year, the change is massive. The football they're playing is interesting to watch.
Yeah.
There is that. Yeah, sure. When they play one of the big boys in the league, and not saying that Liverpool aren't a big boy, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. They play the big boys, and it's a proper contest. That will definitely test their mettle and stuff. But the fact that they're not dropping points to teams that they shouldn't be dropping points to, whilst playing good football, whilst even being in situations where they are down a man and they're in a disadvantage, they look like a real deal team so far. I mean, I know we're 8 games in. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But I'm proper impressed with them. I like Postecoglou as well. I think he's a really fun guy and a nice manager. Yeah. But whatever he's instilling and putting into these players, he's rejuvenated players as well. Yeah. But the way that Spurs are playing now is good to watch. The way that Arsenal play is good to watch. The way that Liverpool play when they can keep people on the pitch is good to watch. Sorry. So we've got like 4 teams at the minute that have got really good teams that play good football.
Yeah.
And they're the 4 that are at the top of the table. And I'm like I said, I'm just super impressed with Tottenham at the minute. Yeah. I really am. And they're normally a team that I hate because they beat Man City every year, no matter how good or bad their form is.
What are they going to do to you this year then?
It's going to be horrid. It's going to be horrid, especially seeing
when are they playing? December 2nd.
Oh, well, Christmas is cancelled. Well, especially now that Haaland's just a hit and miss. He's he's a fraud now. So
fraud, yeah, right.
Well, he's not scored in 2 games, so
he's having a quiet patch. That's all it is.
He's obviously just an overrated striker, and he's just terrible. So it's over, I'm afraid. Pack up. I think we should just cancel the league now and just give it to Tottenham. How about your game then with Liverpool?
With Brighton.
Yeah, Liverpool and Brighton and Hove Albion. Was it the fact that you played 2 teams? Is that why you
Brighton are a very good team.
They are
pushing.
A very good team.
Yeah, they're pushing for the top European spots yet again. So they are a good, solid team. They played well against us. We went one behind again. I'm fed up of that. Can we not do that anymore, please, boys? Yeah. Please. It's painful. I thought for the penalty, if you read the laws of the game, and this, if I wanted to be a real bitter Liverpool fan, which I can be, because the laws of the game, we can't restart. It's the laws of the game. If we're gonna do that now, then not making a play for the ball, i.e. pulling a shirt. I can't remember the rule it is, but there is a specific rule that says that in the case of in the box, when you pull the guy, pull the shirt, or, don't make a play for the ball, it's a penalty and a sending off.
Yeah.
The dude didn't even get a yellow.
I know. And I was outraged. I was looking at but also not just that, he's attempting to impede a goal scoring opportunity. Isn't that a sending off as well?
Yeah. Well, the thing with dogs, denial of obvious goal scoring opportunity, is that there can't be double jeopardy. You get the penalty, sending off. However, there are cases where you do get the double jeopardy, and that's where the rule comes in about not making a play for the ball.
Right. So if you just
wipe pulling the shirt on. Mm-hmm. Well, we can go for the ball technically and wipe the guy out, but if you just grab the shirt and pull him back, like Saka in the World Cup. Was it the World Cup?
Yeah. No, Euros. It was the Euros against Italy.
Italy, yeah, where he grabbed him by the collar and just went, "No,
Italy
you're going
didn't
nowhere."
qualify for the World Cup because of karma.
Of karma. There was a lot of karma coming the way after that one. But yeah, that's the type of moment in the box, and it wasn't as bad as that one with Saka, but there was still that. It should have been a sending off, but and I think I'm fairly sure that one as well is in the Howard Webb Michael Owen discussion, where he says, had it been a red card, we would have kept it as a red card. Like, really? What?
I love this at the minute. It's like watching politicians try and answer a question of what did you have for breakfast, and they just spew out some nonsense about what they've done for breakfasts across Britain.
But just briefly then on the end for Liverpool, I really want, if anyone's seen him, right? If anyone's seen him, can you please return Van Dijk from 3 years ago to Liverpool? Because he's disappeared. There's this dude that looks like him who plays like one of the best defenders in the league, which is great, but we need the real one back because this dude isn't it. I don't know where he's gone. We need that back because if we don't have that and then we have the other frailties that we've got defensively, we're going to leak these goals.
Yeah. So you've been victim to that in previous seasons when you've had defensive issues. We know that's an area for Liverpool and has been, pretty much. I wouldn't be surprised though if it's maybe he's losing a yard or two because of his age, because of the injuries that he's had.
I know. Yeah, but
he's fought back.
There's the excuses, right? There was the World Cup, there was the injury, there's the age. I can understand if it came back from one of those and then dipped off, but we've never recovered from any of those. He's not the same as from when we had that big break. I think it was for the World Cup.
Right.
Since then, he's just not been. He's still fantastic. Love him to death. I think he's our best defender, and I think he's one of the better ones in the league. It's just not the same guy, and I want the other guy back.
I want my wife back.
Hey, how about Everton? Speaking of Merseyside,
you want to go with Everton, and that was a segue.
There you go.
What? They're on fire. Your defenses are terrified. What on earth? They clearly listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
Because they turned it around, man.
They've got a higher XG this year so far than Man City. I don't know what that means, but apparently it's good.
XG stands for expected goals. So it should be EG, but they can't put EG because it means example, doesn't it?
Sure. Okay.
So But that's what XG is for the cool
Fair
kids.
enough.
It's something probably FIFA introduced, and then everyone ran with it. But anyway, I'm impressed, man.
Yeah.
They look great. That's 2 weekends on the
Hmm.
trot as well. Well, no, they lost to Luton. Sorry, last weekend or weekend before. But they've been impressive, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that they're going to go on a run and get mid-table or lower mid-table, maybe somewhere
Yeah.
between 10th and 14th, and just stay there.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be a thorn in some teams' sides. Others are going to have weeks where it doesn't quite come off for them, and I think that's why that puts them there. But there's nothing to show of that team that makes you think that they're going to be in a relegation battle.
Well, no, they have fight in them. They have
Yeah.
ability in them. They're trying to unlock. They're
Mm-hmm.
trying to solve the puzzle.
Yep.
And we were saying, like defensively, there is no issues there, and
Mm-hmm.
there isn't really. Like they
Yeah.
you know, they concede some goals, but they're not like they're -3 on the goal difference and stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
against them, they've only had 12 goals, which, for teams down that area, like the teams below them,
Yeah.
15, 20, 18, and 22. And
Yeah.
those are the teams that are below them in the league. That's Luton, Burnley, Bournemouth, and Sheffield United. So what the goals that they're leaking aren't a relegation fodder.
No. Hey,
Because
Villa have got 12 against. Brighton 16. West Ham 12. United, sorry,
United.
I mentioned it. Sorry. The other team that we don't mention, 12.
The curse.
Fulham 13. Wolves 14. They're all teams above them.
Yep. So, you know what I'm saying? So it's obviously that the problem, the struggle, sorry, not the problem for Everton, the struggle for Everton at the minute is scoring goals and winning games and that. And they are definitely sort of, I know it's kind of week to week. It's like 1 week there's a mega victory, the next week there's a mega loss, and they're working through that. But I'm surprised by them, because I wrote them off when we started this podcast, when we were talking about who we think's going up and down, what we're going to think is going to happen. I wrote Everton off because they looked toothless going up front. They had nothing going on, and you were the one that said if they can solve that part of it, they're going to be a team.
Yeah, I like Sean Dyche. I think he's a great manager. I think he should be in charge of the England team right now.
No, I agree. Speaking of that, just quickly, I know we don't talk international and stuff, but I saw something brilliant about that. So someone mentioned on a podcast that Pep Guardiola should be the England manager. And someone went, nah, it would be awful. And the person was just really aggrieved. They were like, oh, but he's won all this and he's done all this and he's brilliant. And this guy just went, yeah, but like there'll be so much downtime. It would drive him mad. Like he wouldn't be able to work on every intricate detail constantly every day on the, you know what I mean? And it would just be, he wouldn't be the kind of manager for it. But yeah, I agree with you. Sorry, bit of a detail.
No, fair enough.
Sean Dyche, man, is I've always liked Sean Dyche. He seems like a no nonsense old school Brian Clough type.
But without the 4-4-2.
Without the 4-4-2. We're playing 4-4-2. Yeah, he's just Everton. I think they're going in the right direction. Like I agree with you. Mid-table charge is definitely on for them. They're going to be a pain in the bum for a lot of teams going forward. But they're also going to be a team that 1 week they'll lose and lose badly. So it's gonna be a bit of a roller coaster for Everton. But it looks positive. It really does. Sure. It definitely looks like they're coming together, man.
Yeah, speaking of a turn, what about Chelsea? Do you think this is anything, or is this just...
Have you been practicing these? Because this is normally my gimmick.
I thought I'd give it a go this time.
Oh, you're nailing it. I've got to say I'm impressed. Well, yes, but at first I was like, oh, they're losing to Burnley.
Exactly.
And then, a bit of a turnaround with them.
Yeah. They've looked okay recently. They're starting to get their poop together.
I mean,
seemingly.
When you start with 40 brand new roster members, pretty much.
Yeah.
It's going to be a bit difficult to find the chemistry. You've got a brand new manager. We've talked about this with Chelsea, is that like I'm using puzzles and stuff again, but it's a Rubik's Cube that you need to figure out. Yeah. Because it's been mismanaged pretty badly over the last few years.
Sure.
And to try and bring a manager in and just go, it's going to work, and here's 40 players, go.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an easy task. And they've started to, again, like Everton, they've kind of started to gain an identity, got a kind of plan in place. They've got a manager who's got good ideas, and if implemented, it's successful, or it can be successful. So, I don't think it's necessarily a massive turning point for them in terms of they're going to now, charge up the league or make much of a dent in the season. To be honest, I still don't think that. I think they'll beat the teams that are in the lower end of the table. They'll probably finish, I don't know, 11th, 12th, 10th, 9th. That kind of area.
Yeah.
They'll miss out on all the Europeans, and maybe make a bit of a stink in a cup. But other than that, it's a step in the right direction in what should be, in my opinion, viewed as a rebuild season.
Yeah, I agree.
And next year you'll get to see the proper Chelsea, or the proper product of the development in the project.
Yeah, fair. I like it.
That's just me. Have you got any other segues?
Just I haven't got a segue, but I want to go back into referees because I love digging at referees.
Refs, they're great.
So, all right, we've got. How about this one then? We've gone around a few teams here. Speaking of people who've gone around a few teams, Michael Owen. Michael Owen spoke with Howard Webb. I'm being informed it was TNT Sports,
aka formerly BT Sports, ROP.
Yeah, well, loads of letters there as well. So there we go. So anyway, point being is that they had a bit of a chat, and Howard Webb was brought on as the head of the PGMOL, the Referees Association, to speak on the issues that we've had. Now, my big gripe about this is that we are being lectured to. We are being treated as less than by these referees. They can do whatever they want. You mentioned about other managers getting into trouble for questioning the referees. I don't know if you know, but Klopp currently is on a one-match suspended sentence for questioning Paul Tierney last season. So he had a go at Tierney last season and got a ban straight away. I think he got awarded a 2-game ban. One was straight away, and the other one is a suspended sentence for all of this season, which basically means you've got to be quiet for this whole season, otherwise we'll enact this ban. But that's what they did. You take your medicine, and that's why you'll probably see Klopp not so committed as he has been in past to rail on referees. He'll rail on situations and say that the grass is too wet, it's too dry, it's too long, it's too short, it's too windy. He'll still do all that nonsense, but he won't question the referees because he doesn't want to get banned, right? So that's where we're at. So Howard Webb comes on, and Michael Owen is treating him like the great Pumbaa, right? He is in charge, and Michael Owen is subservient to him. Yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. Right. And Howard Webb can get away with saying so much stuff unchallenged that it's frustrating. He talks about the Liverpool thing with the VAR being a lapse of concentration, just kind of whooshes it away with just a momentary lapse of concentration. Yet we all know, we've heard the audio, there was 20 odd seconds after the restart where there's still confusion. If it's a momentary lapse in concentration, you're, sorry, I daydreamed for a second there. To be gone fishing for the best part of 3-4 minutes, that's not a lack of concentration. And it needed someone other than Michael Owen to state that to him, to say, you might be right in what you said and all that, but you can't relabel this and repackage it as something it's not. It just simply isn't that. What Howard Webb said is going forward, they're going to use this to have clearer communication, so that at the end it'll be something like check complete offside or check complete goal. Because right now they just say check complete. Did it really need, was it 2-3 years of VAR and this incident for them to think, maybe we should say some words here? It just seems astonishing that he wasn't called up on that either. Really, that should make us feel warm and cuddly that you're gonna think about how these people who, as you pointed out earlier in the podcast, Jordan, they didn't sound like they knew what they were doing. They're going to be able to now say the right things at the end.
You aren't exactly going to get investigative journalism and intelligence from a man who said when they don't score, they hardly ever win.
I don't disagree. That's what I'm saying. He was the wrong person for that.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, and I think, I mean, I don't know when this went out or when this happened, but after Paul Merson and Mike Dean went off on each other on Sky, I think they would try to give Howard Webb like the softest, cuddliest puppy they could as of an interviewer to not have this happen on every network.
Well, the Paul Merson incident, you saw then the attitude from the referees, and that attitude it stinks, and that's what we get top to bottom, and that's what dictates how the PGMOL and how VAR is implemented. I can't remember who said it. Was it Pochettino that said there's nothing wrong with VAR as a vehicle? It's the drivers where we have issues.
Correct. I think it was him. But I agree with that sentiment. I think the thing that really frustrates me is that in the World Cup we had a VAR scenario where it was more. I can't remember exactly what it was. There was something that happened in the World Cup that was of how they implemented and used VAR that was so much more effective and so much better than league. And when that was brought to the Premier League as what we're going to do, the PGMOL and the Premier League decision makers and maybe even the clubs, I'm not 100% sure, basically went, we don't want that version of VAR. We want the one that we've got.
Yeah, it's the semi-automated offside where all the screens create a digital image and then they'll show computer animation of the two people and it'll be as clear as day. There's no human interaction. You just say this, that. The people feed the images into the computer and then computer tells you yes or no.
And, you know, if this is what these people need to keep up with the pace or the whatever it is that's causing this, because they've needed it. They've needed it for years when they didn't have it. Now they've got it. They can't do it They can't mess up. When improvements are made, they don't want them. And it's
there's so many errors getting made, like the lines not being drawn for the Arsenal game properly earlier on, and that was astonishing to me as well. There's the lines being drawn correctly for the Liverpool game, but the communication of what they were calling was wrong. There's the inconsistency on this is a red, that's not a red. Like, I want to go back to the City Arsenal game for a second, because that was another one that came up there where Howard Webb said that, yes, that was a sending off, in his opinion. They were wrong with that. But he also admits that had the on-field ref given a red card, VAR would have confirmed that red card, which blows my mind. What's the point of VAR if we're not going to go against the referees? Remember last season, I think it was Cucurella got his hair pulled, and the VAR admitted afterwards that they didn't want to let the referee know that he'd missed that because he was having a tough game and it's his mate, and he didn't want him to have a worse game.
Yeah. But
that... It's the people driving. That's the issue.
The people driving, though, are stupid because do not think that the aftermath of not addressing these things is worse
than
addressing them.
They're bulletproof.
And that was my thing earlier, wasn't it? When I was saying that you can't even say that he had a bad game without risking a ban or a fine.
Yeah, when Howard Webb came on with Michael Owen and did what he did with the Paul Merson incident, who was he? What was the ex-ref called?
Mike Dean, it was.
Mike Dean. The way that they are creates an aura of bulletproof to everyone else. So that's how the it's not just the fact that the it's not the fact that the managers and players feel that they can't say anything anymore. It's the fact that the referees and the assistants and all officials from VAR to on the field feel that they are now emboldened by that attitude, that they share that bulletproof feeling. That one of the rugby, I talked about the rugby previously about the way that their audio is heard and the way that their referees speak to the players and the respect back and forth. Yeah, respect goes both ways, and respect has been earned in rugby over the years, which is why you can have the audio that we hear all the time in rugby where they're talking back and forth, and the player will come up to the ref and say, yeah, but there was this, and the referee will say, no, I'm the referee, quiet now, stand there, this is this, I'm calling that for that, you go to the bin, thank you, goodbye, and they walk away. You wouldn't be able to do that with the Premier League and football because of the culture of how that relationship has been over the years. It's not an overnight change, but we're just making it worse by doing what we're doing.
I completely agree, because you need some certainty and some accuracy in this. And for years, referees have been they have been bullied and they have been mistreated by players, by managers and stuff. That is great, but you don't need to make that relationship better. Isn't just going, you can't say anything to me now, you can't do this, because you can't criticize me, because before, in the olden days, referees used to get like surrounded by players and shouted at and intimidated, and therefore they probably made decisions based on not wanting to experience and go through that again, whereas this gives you some sort of backup. But the backup, like if you're a policeman going into a building with a gun and you got your backup is just like stood outside just looking at the gun in the face, I wonder what happens here. You know, then that referee gets no protection either. And it's just it just needs sorting. And my question to you probably in this is then, what do you think? Persist with VAR but make changes? Scrap it? If there are any changes, where do you stand? Where do you think we could improve?
I don't think scrapping it is an option. We all have smartphones and TVs and everything that we can do technology-wise, that even during a game, we can, in our houses, stop games, rewind games, and see that decisions have been made incorrectly. So I think if we scrap VAR and just went on-field decision counts, I don't think that's going to work. We do need to have an ongoing improvement of the system. It cannot be that we collect all this data ourselves, then at the end of the season, we give that to whoever runs the whole thing, FIFA, I think it is. And then FIFA decide on the new rules for VAR that they get sent out, because every country uses VAR. So you can't have your own rules for its implementation. That was one of the arguments about not being able to restart after a VAR intervention. You can't, once you've restarted, you can't then stop the game, can't intervene. Those changes can only be made at the end of the season. What I would like to see is a separation from that, where there's more of a generalized version of VAR, and then these little errors can either be implemented within each country and then globally at the end of the season, or now in between last weekend and this weekend, FIFA put out a thing to all referees. VAR has changed its usage because of the incident at Spurs. This is now the rule. Whatever has changed, that you, in these circumstances where there has been an error on the part of the operator, not that they've called it wrong and they've realized it. If they've called it one way and it's not heard it right way, whatever the wording is, I'd like to see that type of change, because that will affect things quickly. Leaving it as it is, I don't think will work. We also need to have consistency, and I think we've talked about this briefly. Having a list of like 10 incidents on video full clips of 10 incidences. This is yellow card. This is nothing. A fair play, 50-50. These are red cards, and have the referees do the research in between games so they can call these things better. And then if they do miss it, the VAR also went through that footage, so they can say, oh no, but based off our training from last week, video 3 here, that's clearly the same, so therefore it is a blank.
Do you think including ex-pros in the VAR rooms around the world would help?
I personally, my opinion is that opinions are what the matter is here. It's someone's interpretation. by saying that a fellow player will be able to interpret it like a player, I'm not sure that's the solution. I don't. What you'll then end up having is having to have ex-players that have got no connection to that team, because no one can be impartial with that, with a foul. Let's say Thierry Henry was in the box in the VAR with the people for that foul, for the red card that should have been against you guys. Do you really think that he's going to give an impartial, proper view of that any better than a VAR official?
Thierry Henry, yes. Any other Arsenal player, no.
I
love Thierry Henry. He's an
I love him.
honourable man. He's apart from when he plays Ireland, he's an honourable man.
Yeah, handball.
Actually, I've just realised what the mistake in what I'm saying. Yeah, he'd lie.
But for sure, that'll be my opinion.
From, though. Yeah.
I'm not. You can get ex players to speak to VAR on a weekly basis and go through stuff. That's it. Get them involved that way. That you have those players on a Tuesday or on a Wednesday when there's no midweek games, which I don't think we've got midweek league games for a while yet. But while we're still on the weekend only league games, get them in midweek to talk to the referees and say, this is what happened in this game, that game, that game. It happens in ice hockey during the game.
Yeah.
In ice hockey in the NHL, at the intermission, at the halftime, they'll have the VAR room, or whatever they call it over here. They will call in to the referee's room and say to them, this happened there, you missed that, that was good, you need to make sure that you keep an eye on this player for that. And they get that information at halftime so that they come out for the third period and they're ready to go with information. We hide that. Howard Webb was proud to say that he knows that the referee in the Spurs Liverpool game wasn't told, because that would have affected the way he played the game for the rest of the game.
Mm-hmm. I think the audio is something that you alluded to before. The audio is important. I think I know you can't pump it through the stadiums, but certainly the TVs. They should have that, like when these decisions are going on, because the lack of transparency is incredible. And I'm gonna go all Alex Jones tinfoil hat on this, but like I think you even said the words earlier. What else has been missed?
Yeah.
What else hasn't happened? Because you start to think like that, and when you start to think like that, it creates a negative relationship between player, ref, footballer, ref, fans, ref. Fan bases against each other, teams against each other. Like it creates a much more negative situation than being transparent. I've always said this about most things. I would rather you be honest and I get mad at you, than you lie to me and I find out later, or you keep something from me and I find out later. And I think most people operate off that premise. And I wouldn't be surprised, right? If so who refereed Liverpool, the Spurs game? Who was the guy that refereed you? Sorry,
I can't remember the name. Darren England comes to mind, but that's just because he was the VAR guy. But it wasn't him on the field.
Darren England referees a game, right? And Darren England makes a mistake in the game, and it costs a team a thing. And he comes out and goes, "Look, I made a decision. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I'm going to do better." You'll be annoyed at him, but at least if he then goes on and shows that he'll do better next time, and his refereeing improves, which you can't improve without criticism. You can't improve without constructive criticism. You can't. It's kind of this weird balance, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of effort and a lot of work, because you have to change cultures of how players react to referees as well. You need to get rid of players surrounding refs. You need to get rid of players brandishing fake cards. You need to get rid of all that as well. You need to stomp that argument out. You need to stomp out managers going in on linos and referees with the vitriol that they do. They can still go up and have a word. I'm not against that. I'm not saying players shouldn't go up and have a word, but the vitriol and the anger and the aggression part of it, and I get that's part of the game and it's the adrenaline and all that kind of stuff. But if you are going to want to, if we're going to give and take here, something has to happen in the attitudes of how human beings are with each other. That will then, I think, sort of filter up, and people
I
want
agree.
to improve. And this kind of shut off the doors thing, like Mike Dean did, like Howard Webb did, when they're questioned about it on telly, would go away.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
and the relationship would be better. But VAR's taken away so much from the game as well because of the inconsistencies of it, the amount of time it takes to make a decision. You know, you score a goal, you kind of celebrate, you kind of don't, because you don't want to look like a fool if they doesn't go, and then and then the cheer goes away, and then it comes back, and all that kind of stuff. Like those kind of things
Yeah,
are being that has been eradicated a bit from the game. But at the same time, like I said, statistically, VAR has done more good than bad.
sure.
You can't argue with that. It's got more decisions
Agreed.
right than it's gotten wrong. But those things that are gotten wrong, I think, are inexcusable. They're not, and that's where the problem is. It's not that VAR as a concept is bad, like you said. It's the driver, not the car.
There needs
Not
to be there needs to be
Good,
retraining of the officials. The system, I think, is fine. Retraining of officials. Speaking of needing retraining of officials, there's another link. Atletico Orlando, the team I coach. We're still flying high at the top of the league by quite some distance, but we had a game against United Soccer Club last weekend, and unfortunately, we lost. First loss of the season. The game was delayed about 10 minutes because we only had 2 referees of the 4 we were meant to get. You meant to get, for these league games, you meant to get a centre ref, 2 assistants, and a 4th. Recently, we've been getting the same 4th official. He's done a couple of games. He's very, very young. He's a teenager, and he's trying. So he's learning the game. He's watching. He's observing. We had to, like I say, it was 2. We only had 2 officials. We had to wait for others to turn up for 10 minutes. There was the centre ref and our 4th official. We found out that one of the assistants was going to be with us 10, 15 minutes late, but that was it. So our 4th official had to be the assistant referee and run the line. Something he's just not cut out to do yet. He will be, but not yet. So it was a weird game anyway. Early on, we found that under a lot of pressure, we were moving the ball real good, real quickly. Exactly as we want, zipping the ball around, moving the ball away. The team that we were playing, United Soccer Club, have some really good players. They're just not that fast. They're a bit physical. They like to get rough with it all. So our game plan was to move the ball quickly, which we were doing while under pressure. As soon as we got into the middle third, however, they were backing off us and slowing their game down. And we did the same thing. We played into their hands and slowed the game down. We weren't as effective moving the ball. So we went into halftime and said to them, you've got to move the ball quicker in the midfield as well. That intensity that we have at the back, move it forward. We've got to do that. As soon as because we told them, they were handling the pressure really, really well. Came out for the second half within a minute. We were put under pressure. We lost the ball. We didn't cope, and they scored on us. It was amazing. You couldn't have written it. But we kept fighting. We did look better. But then certain things started coming apart because of the frustration of the players on the field for various reasons. The away team, United Soccer Club, for example, they had a breakaway, which they should have. It was clear. It was fine. The ball kind of came into the midfield. They had a runner who was about to run offside, and our guy kicked the ball back to our goalkeeper from just in our own half. But only just in our own half. Long ball, stupid, suicidal pass. And their player jumped on it. And immediately we're thinking, goal here, 1-on-1v1. And the assistant referee put his flag up for offside. We kicked it back to our player, but the assistant referee, offside. So their bench, it was right by their bench as well, is going mental at the referee, which goes to what we're talking about respecting the referees. When they're as appalling as that, it's very difficult to keep you cool, because they were just saying, no, we've called it an offside. It's an offside. We don't have VAR to be able to see that there's an error, of course. So we got the ball back. It should have been a play on and a 1v1 and a goal, but it was bad. And there were little decisions then about fouls being given, not being given, that just disrupted the whole flow of the game. We tried our best and it ended a 2-1 loss. But it's interesting that the issues that we're having at the very top are mirrored when you go down into the pyramid. The lack of quality of referees, lack of training, lack of discipline from the players with regards to respect for referees. Yeah, it's a much more global issue than Liverpool wanting a replay or Arsenal deserving a red card. It's a much broader discussion that needs to be had, and decisions made to make the game better for everyone.
Agreed. I always love hearing the updates about Atletico Lagos. Keep that up. Similarly on that though, I just talk about the Women's Super League game that I watched.
Please,
I started watching some Women's Super League because after the Women's World Cup, I thought I saw some the development in the game in general. The women's game has been extremely good over the last few years. It's really much better than it was 5 to 10 years ago, etc. Like, it's constantly developing and it's getting better, which it will do because it's starting to finally get some eyes and it's getting some credence. So I've started watching Women's Super League because it's on BBC. Watching Chelsea, Man City, but the referee decision in that, there was a referee decision in that game which just boggled my mind. So Chelsea fouled a Man City player. It was in the Man City area, half of the pitch. Player goes to take the free kick. As she's running in to take the free kick, she's looking up and she's looking at her options, and all of her options are covered. So she stops and she takes a step back, and then she passes back to a defender.
Mm-hmm.
Referee blows a whistle. Now, she'd already had a yellow card from a previous incident, and the referee blows the whistle, gives her another yellow card, and sends her off. Claims it's time wasting.
Wow.
Right? And people are fuming, right? You got a couple of other Man City players, they got yellow cards for dissent. You had the manager, he got into some trouble. But the commentators were saying this is a bad decision. I don't understand what this is. Because literally it was a player going forward. I got no options. So what's their option in that situation? Do they just have to play like you were saying before about your team, a kamikaze ball, and then just hope for the best? Like, I know we're clamping down on time wasting, and which I completely agree with. I think that there is too much time wasting in football, and it's good to add. I do sort of agree with the extra like 5-10 minutes if it needs it. I do agree with it, but there's levels to this game, and that seemed like such an extreme reaction to you know what I mean, to like
for sure.
the time wasting problem.
So
yeah, it was a bit grieved by that, and I don't think Manchester City women's team really handled it particularly well. But you know what I mean, like you're saying, it goes up the levels. These issues with referees and these issues with players, it filters through.
Yeah,
it's a cultural thing, and I know there'll be people who'll argue, well, if you can't take the heat, don't ref.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that's just a simplistic way of just accepting bad behavior. And if you can't accept that the referees are going to be just going to defend each other and put the blinkers on when you come at them, don't play the game then. Everything works both ways in this. And I think there's going to be a lot more of this going on this year. This season is going to be an interesting one for that, for sure. In terms of finishing up then, the title race is officially on.
Yeah.
And looking at it now, who do you think is going to be in that top four now, from based on what's going on?
I can see it being the current top four still,
You
based
think
off
that's going
how
to
it's
be
going.
the top?
No, based off how it's going now, right? Because obviously that's changed over 8 weeks. Opinions have changed. It's different than I thought it was going to be. So there's no reason why in another 8 games it's not going to feel a bit different. So to update those look like the four strongest teams to me. I can see Arsenal and City. That hasn't changed for me. Those are the two strongest. But I definitely see Spurs and Liverpool as strong contenders.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that if Manchester City can't recover properly from this, because this could be like a little bit of a sign of, I don't know. I sort of addressed it with you with Liverpool. This heavy metal football, this standard. If you can't like hitting that standard season in season out, it's difficult.
Yeah.
No matter how much the player costs. Just saying, still a human being, still have to function.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm looking at Man City and they look a little less dominant and a little less convincing. Even when they've been winning games, I don't think they've looked that convincing. I think I've said it a few times on this show. Score lines sometimes flatter opponents, and that's been the case with Manchester City this year. I don't think there's been a game where I've gone that all matches up. Yeah, we smashed them. Like we've on paper we've smashed teams, but I don't think performance wise we've smashed teams. And it's an interesting one with a revitalized Spurs, with a revitalized Arsenal, with a Liverpool that frankly have had a lot of bad luck, but don't necessarily look like, but look a better version of themselves than they've looked over the last few seasons. We're definitely not in a one-horse race. We're not in a two-horse race. We're not in a farmers league.
No.
I've been proven right. Give me my flowers. Kiss the ring. I'm right, and you're all wrong. This is not a farmers league. And thank you, Everton. Sorry, thank you, Arsenal. Thank you, Spurs, and thank you, Liverpool, for proving me right.
Well, Spurs have also got the added benefit of not having Europe this year.
There is that as well, yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, unlike Liverpool, they don't have to go to Transylvania on a Thursday.
There is that. Well, we've got to go to Serbia, I think.
Yeah.
It's cold. It's cold there, especially around December.
But to conclude what we're talking about here with the referees, just to kind of put a fine pin on it, I think retraining or training or ongoing training is the way forward. To paraphrase something, those who don't learn, and then you take away from history, are doomed to repeat it. If we don't learn from this, if the referees don't learn from this, we're just going to have the same thing happen over and over again. You cannot be... There's none so stupid as those who don't want to learn. There's loads of phrases that I've heard over the years, and it just feels like the PGMOL, the way that they represent themselves, is a body that feel like they're not doing anything wrong. No, we'll explain to you why you feel bad about this, but this is the way it is, and we'll move on. Thank you very much. That attitude is only going to lead us into more and more issues. We have to take a step back and sort this out. With the retraining of the refs, with the retraining of the discipline of the players and the teams, to give the referees that respect that they need as well.
Yep. In conclusion, then, I'm going to do a few more quotes since you were doing those. Whichever team scores more goals usually wins.
Yep.
That would have been a goal had it gone inside the post. It's hit the facial part of his head there. Your own out there with 10 mates.
Brilliant.
And it's definitely hit Defoe's hand and it's gone in, but it's not a handball for me.
Fantastic.
Thank you for listening to the show. Do you know the score on Instagram and on Facebook? Please follow us. Let us know if you
Please do, and please interact with us as well with the likes and the comments. Drop them all in there. Don't be coming to us privately. Let's have it public. Get it on the video, YouTube videos, or on all the social media.
Expose yourselves, you cowards. Do you know the score at gmail.com? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Do you want to argue with us? Do you just want to send us spam? Who knows? But that's the email address to get in touch with the show if you want. We are available on YouTube. We are on TikTok as well. So there'll be little clippy clips in that. Full podcast will be on YouTube as well. And there'll be clippy clips on there too. And clippy clips on Instagram. I like saying clippy clips.
Sounds like.
Thank you so much for listening. Are we going to do an episode next week? Because it's still Dirty International break.
Let's have a short one to cleanse the palate, because it feels like every week we're bashing referees. So let's see if we can maybe do another state of play one for just an actual review rather than bashing.
Referees suck.
We've done it now.
Au revoir.
Bye.